The graph of the function f is shown at right. So this is function f. So the limit as x approaches 3 of the function, what would that be? So what that's saying there in this situation is here is 3. So as we approach 3 from both sides, what are we approaching? What is the output? And you can see right there, we are approaching from both sides the value of 3. Next, what is the limit as x approaches 2 of f of x? Well, let's look at that one. So this is 2 right here, so what we're approaching here and we're approaching here, aren't we approaching this value right in there? It's an open circle, so there's no value there at that point, but that's what we're approaching. So we're approaching an output of 4. And then lastly, what is f of 2? Well, f of 2 is actually right here. That right there is f of 2. This is not f of 2. This is what they're approaching from both sides. So f of 2 is 1. So the answer to that one would be 1. Now the question is, the limit of f of x as x approaches 2 is 4, but the value is 1. They are not the same. Interesting. So the value's down here, but they're approaching here. So when we ask for f of 2, this is it. This is where you're approaching. And if we just want to find f of this one, the limit is f of as x approaches 3 of f of x is the value. So if we look at here, f of 3 is 3, and so is the limit is 3. So they're the same. For any value along a graph like this, it's the same. But for this particular spot, when the value is somewhere else, they don't agree with each other. All that said is the limit, for this one was 4, the value was 2. The limit doesn't always equal the value on its weird situations. But if it's on the graph, that's when the limit equals a value. For here, the limit as x approaches 4 would be 2, and the f of 4 is also 2. Those are the same. But there are situations we want to look at where the limit and the value are not the same. And that's something where we kind of focus on from the future on. The table of values of the function g is shown below. So here's g. All right, I want the limit of g of x as x approaches 7. So as you notice here, aren't the x values getting closer and closer to 7? And here, aren't they getting closer to 7? So if you look at it carefully, aren't we kind of looking for right in here? Isn't that f of 7? Or sorry, not f of, g of 7. Okay, so g of 7 is somewhere in here. So if I want g of 7, what are we approaching from both sides? I don't know what g of 7 is, but I can use the limit to see what I'm approaching. So what are we approaching as we go this way? Aren't we getting closer and closer to 3? And as from this side, aren't we getting closer and closer to 3? So from both sides, we are approaching a g value at 7 of 3. So we would call the limit of g of x as x approaches 7 would be 3, because we're approaching from both sides 3. And a table is a good way to approximate limits and see what you approaching from both sides.